Welcome to the latest episode of Gold Guest Talk Tottenham, sponsored by NordVPN. Joining me as ever, it's Alasdair Gold. You well?
Yeah, hanging on in there. Not doing as well as you after last night, I would imagine. I presume you were at Goodison Park for the last ever Merseyside derby there.
I was. What a finish to the game, and what a goal from Tarkowski as well. Just how well did he catch that? But yeah, he just absolutely erupted when he scored, and I actually had the hood off my jacket got ripped off in the celebration. So after the game, I had to go have a look for the hood, and I found it about 6 or 7 rows in front of where I was. So good night.
That is probably a football story that not many people come away from a stadium with. Someone ripped your hood. Did they actually just throw your hood, or did it just detach in the madness?
I've no idea. Someone, I think, just grabbed hold of my hood and ended up running down the steps with it. Obviously,
What?
yeah.
That's really harsh. That's different. I thought it was just in the kind of the moment. I didn't realize they actually grabbed it and ran. It was
Well,
you were
there was a
hoodwinked.
bit of a charge down the stairs when we scored. So I think they
Right.
just grabbed it, trying to steady themselves, and then just taking off with it. So
Is it a detachable hood, or is it just one that ripped off?
it is, thankfully.
Oh, that's okay.
And I mean, I was looking at it this morning and thinking, I've got the wrong hood. I picked someone else's up here, but thankfully it is the right one.
Wow. I can't remember what extreme joy and celebration feels like, but hopefully we'll get that at some point with Tottenham again. No, I was very happy for you. I was kind of watching the game unfold, and obviously the late moments and the chaos and carnage that came after it as well. But no, I did think of you instantly that it must be very cool to be able to enjoy that. And yeah, now it's about Spurs at some point regaining feelings like that, because obviously it's been a week that has not brought such feelings.
Yeah, I think, first of all, apologies. This is the first one we've probably done in about 9 or 10 days. We've just not had the opportunity last week to reflect on the Liverpool game. And early this week, we were in Canary Wharf, football.london towers for a meeting. But so this is like
Tower. It's more a tower. Yes, Lee called us into the office on the day we were going to do our podcast.
Yeah, so this is the first one we've got to do since then. So we are going to, I think, briefly look back on the Liverpool and Aston Villa
There's
Cup
no point
exits.
wallowing, is there?
No, there's not. There's not. But we will be looking ahead to a very big game in the capital on Sunday, and that's the game against Manchester United at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I think all eyes are going to be on the game when that takes place at 4:30, but all eyes are going to be on outside the stadium as well before the game, with a protest taking place.
Yeah, this could potentially be the biggest one we've kind of seen against the chairman, Daniel Levy, the owners, ENIC, the hierarchy, the board, whatever words people want to use. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see, because there have been occasions before where these have kind of been mooted and promoted across social media, and kind of we as journalists have gone out there to check on them, and they've been more kind of modest things, still worthy of reporting, which we all have, but maybe not quite what people had hoped, perhaps. Whereas it feels like maybe with everything going on right now, the real kind of dispirited feeling among a lot of the fan base, and this is probably, I know there's people that are, have decided that they've had enough of Postecoglou, but this really feels like a time when it's the chairman who's getting the most of the kind of dismay, disappointment, chance, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, this protest, just kind of people aware it's out there. It's being reported everywhere as well. I think it starts at 3 o'clock, where fans will gather at the crossroads of Lordship Lane and the High Road, and they're planning to march up towards the West Stand that way. And then it's going to, I think, go into. Actually, I should say, fans have been asked to bring banners and flags and things like that. Asked to not chant abuse or show any aggressive behaviour, which I'm sure they won't anyway. But certainly in terms of the aggressive behaviour anyway. But yeah, it'll. That's the idea. And then the plan for the protest is to continue inside the stadium, but around the match. I think that's the idea, is that so before the match, there'll be kind of I think there's going to be a gathering in the south stand, and afterwards, I think that's the plan as well, from what we can kind of see. But yeah, the idea is that during the match, Spurs and Postecoglou need all the help they can get right now. We talk about the atmosphere at Goodison Park, which just looked incredible for much of that game, or certainly long periods of it, and that's kind of what the Spurs fans need to do during the game. But absolutely around it, there's going to be this protest, and it'll be interesting to see just kind of how big it is this time, and how much of an impact it makes. It's a big game that's on TV. Everyone's going to hear it. We've all heard the chants at home and away in recent weeks as well against the chairman. It's always, I always find it kind of a strange situation in terms of, with Daniel Levy, we're not just talking about someone that is kind of employed in a role as a figurehead of a club. He is someone that actually owns a big chunk of the club. He owned, I think it's something like 29% of the ENIC share. I think something like that. Anyway, he is, or essentially, it's a trust that he and his family will benefit from, is the way it's always termed. So, yeah, it's probably not someone that you're just going to be able to push that easily out the door in terms of that's what the fans want. But it's more a case, I guess, of just signaling how disappointed they are and how upset they are at the way, I guess, the club has unfolded, probably more so on the pitch, isn't it? And the way it's grown off the pitch. We've said it a million times. You can't argue with what an incredible stadium it is, the training ground, all of these things, that the infrastructure around the club. But it's just the many missed opportunities, I guess, and decisions made over the years, with everything reflected on the pitch. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that is. And yeah, for us, it's going to create kind of a bit of a dual thing, isn't it, to report on? You're kind of reporting on a game, but you're also reporting on what's going on around it. And of course, there is the irony, which can't be escaped, that it's the house that Levy built. This is his crowning glory, really, of his almost a quarter of a century at the helm of Tottenham Hotspur, is that Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which is the pinnacle, really, of stadiums around the world. Yet it's going to be the home of protests on Sunday against him, and there is a certain amount of irony to that. And yeah, it will be fascinating to kind of see how it unfolds. I hope it's all like has been asked for. It doesn't become aggressive and unpleasant and things like that. And the key for me is separating that from the support in the game, because Spurs need all the help they can get right now.
Oh, very much so. I think everyone's probably just hoping all the talk after the game is about Tottenham getting the result on the pitch, because that's what they need to do right now. And the fans are going to play a key role in that. I think it's one of those where, the fans can hopefully, give the players the boost to go on and win the game. But also, I think the players need to do something on the pitch as well to give the fans a bit of a lift, because it's been really tough times. Recently, Spurs winning last time out in the Premier League, but they're still, quite a bit away from the top half of the Premier League table at the moment, and things have to improve. And hopefully, what will help improve things in recent over the coming weeks is injured players coming back. Obviously, since the Aston Villa defeat, it's been a bit of a unusual week, shall we say, at Spurs, because pretty much since the end of August, it has been a game every 3 or 4 days. But this week, free midweek slot, thanks to Tottenham finishing the top 8 of the Europa League table, and the same goes for next week as well. So an opportunity there for Ange Postecoglou to give his players, the ones who've been playing, relentlessly over the past couple of months, a few days off. Those who are returning, he said after the Villa game that they'd be getting a full week on the training pitch before they then all come together. And yeah, hopefully all bodes well and ends in a positive result on Sunday.
Yeah, it must be so weird this week. It's so rare to have a full week of training at Spurs.
Yeah.
He kind of keeps going back to what, November-ish. I think he keeps saying, he keeps calling it 2.5 months, but I think it's probably nearer to 3 months. They've had the odd little moment. I think there was was it Newcastle?
Pre-Newcastle was a free week. Then the one I can remember before that was, I think it was between Everton and Newcastle in August.
Right. Yeah. It's just mad. It's absolutely mad. And people keep pointing out to him, and it's like you kind of feel like he's being kicked a bit in terms of using what he said. But last season, of course, he said we wish we had more games, and obviously this season it's like, well, you can't complain that you've had too many games. It's well, it's I think he would have been absolutely delighted to have this amount of games if he had the squad to be able to deal with it. And that's not only injuries; that's probably having a properly stocked squad to begin with to deal with everything that came. But yeah, this week has been so weird. It's been weird for us. I don't know about you, but kind of reporting on a week that we're so used to having a press conference and a match in the middle of it. And yeah, there's players back in training, various players returning to training, which is weird enough in itself. And, it looks like the likes of Destiny Doggy, James Maddison, Wilson Odebear, who kind of is probably a little bit ahead of where many people expected him to be. Brennan Johnson. Obviously, we've kind of seen Vicario in training already. But with those four, it looks like to varying different degrees of being back on the grass, they'll be out there. Obviously, it doesn't mean that all four of them will be involved, those outfield players, in Sunday's game. And I'm actually fascinated to see how many are able to take part, because who's been able to have full training sessions, who's been in the required intensity, are they going to still remain very cautious with them because of what's happened to other players before? And I should just stress, thank you to the many people on social media who said, make sure you ask about Ven and Romero in the press conference. Of course we will. And I should state, we have been. There's this idea that we haven't been asking about them. I know for myself, I can only speak for myself, that I've asked about Van de Ven and Romero in recent press conferences. Probably much of, and this is not to go like tooting my own horn or anything, but most of the stuff we've had about Van de Ven in the last couple of press conferences and answers has been from the questions I've asked. So don't worry. We're going to ask again, because it is getting to a bit of a ridiculous situation now, where just saying they're slow burning or slow healers and all this sort of stuff, it's not quite enough. We need more than that. We need to kind of know exactly what's happening with those two players, because there can't be that much mystery around two utterly key players in a squad. Don't worry. We know. Honestly, I must have been tagged in probably approaching 200 maybe tweets in the last couple of days asking me to ask about it. Don't worry. We're all aware. We're all going to ask about it. He's going to get a load of questions, no doubt about it. I'm sure he'll be prepared. I wouldn't be shocked if he says something straight off the bat when he's asked about team news about them. But yeah, back to the players that are there. That could be the shock. We might find that Romero and Van de Ven are suddenly there, and it's the big twist. But it's just having potentially extra bodies, even just for the bench, even just get one or two on the bench, and suddenly a bench of kids that you're probably not going to play. Let's be honest, because they're not ready to be thrown into a situation like this. I mean, like against Villa at the weekend. Villa, I know their bench was kind of struggling as well. They only had 7 players on it, but they're able to bring Rashford and Asensio off their bench as their attacking options. Whereas Spurs, with no disrespect to him, because he had an amazing debut and a goal and it was fantastic, but Spurs' only attacking option was Damala Ajayi, who'd just made his debut at 19 years old. It's chalk and cheese when you're talking about the experience there and who you can bring on in a game. So yeah, just for the coaches as well, just gives them that bit of freshness and life to be working with different players and those players who are absolutely shattered. Who, yes, he gave Monday and Tuesday off. Some of them I saw went off. I think Decky went to Rome. I think I saw. Not that I'm stalking his Instagram, but it just popped up. And yeah, it's an interesting one, that, because 2 days is probably not long enough to go somewhere and sun yourself, is it? It's you probably have to go for a more kind of nearby couple of days, and the weather's probably not going to be the greatest wherever you go with that. I mean, you're the travel expert. Where could you go in 2 days?
Well, I mean, didn't you go to Melbourne in May for like 2 days?
That's a great point.
You can go anywhere in the world.
Although technically I spent 2 days traveling, so that wouldn't have really worked. Yeah, and actually Melbourne wasn't that hot either at that point. But yeah, that's still mad. And when people talk about the fixtures and the fixture pile-up, absolutely understand why people go back to that now and look at the end of last season and go, hello. Although, to be fair, at the end of last season, they hadn't played a lot of matches. But yes, still a mad trip to make. But yeah, training just as a whole will just have such a different vibe about it, and hopefully that feeds into Sunday's match.
Yeah, well, I think where we are, you can go to any country, can't you, within a couple of hours in Europe. And I think it's probably just important for the players just to have a bit of rest time, chance to refresh.
We've wasted a segue here, haven't we? I've just realised.
Have we?
Yeah, for our middle of the pod ad that we do, this would have been perfect.
Don't worry,
We've
I've got a
some.
good one lined up for
Oh, you've
today.
got one. Oh, no
Yeah,
pressure. Okay.
yeah. But yeah, as I was saying, where we are in the UK, you're within a couple of hours of different countries, and yeah, I think it's just important for the players to have a bit of relaxation time, bit of time to rest and recover, because it has been relentless over the past few days, a few months. Sorry, every 3 or 4 days there's been a game, and it's just going to be nice to have some options. I think for Ange Postecoglou, even if they don't start, players who can come on for maybe 10, 15 minutes at the end of the game. If Spurs need a result and something to change in the closing stages, then you can bring someone on like that. And again, you don't want to throw players in too early, but just have choice on the bench. It's going to be nice. And there's going to be Dean Scarlett available as well, because he was cup tie for those Liverpool and Villa games. And at a time when you're needing someone to go on and try and make a difference in the final third, you could maybe throw a Dane on for 10, 15 minutes. The Romero one, it's going to be interesting what Ange says, because initially it was towards the end of January. We're now mid-February. I'm sure Christian will be back in time for the Argentina games.
Oh, you went there. You went there. Did you see there was? I can't remember who it was. There's a journalist, isn't there, that's always very, very quick with the Romero news from I think it's Argentina, and he did suggest that he might be back in training ahead of the Argentina matches, which they've got to know. I know it could just be a terrible or just an unfortunate coincidence, but they've got to know how that looks. Wasn't the last time it would look like it was going to be that way, and then he played for Spurs a game or two before?
That was November. Did he play against Ipswich final game before?
I feel like he might have done. I'd have to look back, but
Was
I feel like
injured against Villa start of November, then came back against Ipswich and went away on international duty? It might have been something like that.
Question for you. So they say in football, there's a bit of an expression that kind of seems to be a little buzzword thing at the moment. The best ability you can have as a footballer is availability.
Yeah.
Do you feel like with Romero and Van de Ven, let's put him in there as well, that has kind of been the biggest failing of both of their Tottenham careers thus far?
How many games has Romero missed really through injury?
I can't remember. Someone put the percentage out the other day and I've completely missed it. But it feels like there's been a chunk most seasons, hasn't there, that he's missed?
Yeah, maybe. I think Van de Ven's just a bit of a worrying one, because he's had the hamstring problems before, and given the way Ange plays, and that might not be the best for him. I'd certainly be worried if he came back and then found himself in the treatment room a few weeks later. But
I think that's what they're scared of, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. But we will, I think, talk about him later on in the podcast. But I think Kevin Danzo's come in and done really well in his first 2 games. Dragassin's played an awful lot of football this season. Going to be next season when he comes back because of that ACL injury.
Yes.
But it just shows you that you need the cover, and Spurs didn't have that, 18 months ago when there was those injuries to Van de Ven and Romero's suspension.
Yeah, but it's still so thin. That's the problem, isn't it? It's like Danso's come in and he hasn't played a lot of football really over the last probably 5-6 weeks because of the winter break, and he wasn't playing in their last couple of games long. So yeah, this suddenly his body has been absolutely like thrown into. It's just before we came on recording this, I saw Matisse Tell did a little Instagram post up that was him in those like the recovery things they put their legs in. I can't remember what they're called now. There's a name for them. And you just kind of think, yeah, he probably needs those because he hasn't played a lot of football really this season either. And suddenly he's been thrown into 2 massive games. So yeah, I think that's my thing really with Romero and Van de Ven, is they're both brilliant players, and it's almost like the 2 players that probably are the most important to the whole foundation of the Postecoglou system are the ones he's probably hasn't been able to call upon enough. And yeah, Van der Ven, it is a worry because there have been so many hamstring issues going back to, it was Wolfsburg, wasn't it? It came from.
Yes.
Yes, where he had a serious one, kind of the was it earlier the same year or the year before? I can't remember, but he had one before he came to Spurs, and I do wonder whether potentially other clubs maybe saw that, and that's why they didn't go for him, and there was kind of slightly less competition than maybe you'd expect when you see a player the quality he actually is. But yeah, I think that's part of the whole caution with him now is that they don't want another scenario like they had with Ryan Sessegnon. Such a talented player, but relied a lot on his pace, and that those hamstrings just both ended up kind of going on both legs. And thankfully, it looks like he's kind of back now and getting more and more minutes, and he's playing again. But you don't want that to befall Micky van der Ven, because the other issue for a player like him is his game is so geared around pace. And if he can't trust his own hamstrings to kind of deliver that speed, then that's going to be a big worry. So I understand the caution. I think we just probably all need a little bit more clarity on it.
Yeah. Before we talk a bit more about the Manchester United game, as you mentioned, a bit of a segue into Nord earlier. There's one here, and big day coming up in the calendar this week, and I don't just mean Tottenham's game against Manchester United on Sunday the 16th. Friday is Valentine's Day, and for anybody still looking for that perfect present for your loved one, we have the perfect gift just for you, and that is the gift of NordVPN. I mean, not only can you save hundreds or thousands of pounds on a trip away this weekend, as you can simply just change your virtual location to anywhere in the world, but Ali is going to explain about all the benefits of using NordVPN.
My word, I was not expecting that. Where did that come from? That was incredible. Yeah, I don't even know if I could even continue after that. That was perfect. Although I did see today that they the most loved Premier League manager according to social media right now on Valentine's Day is Nuno. Did you know that? Apparently.
Wow.
Unfortunately, Ange didn't fare so well in social media posts about him, but that's a whole different thing. Yeah, NordVPN. It is one for people, no doubt, who want to either escape on Valentine's Day or kind of head off together with their partner, because you can take it anywhere in the world with you and access everything you need to back home, making your device thinking it's back in the UK. Or likewise, if you wanted to spend your Valentine's back at home, back in the UK, you can switch all your devices to thinking they're in a foreign country, and you can cozy up on Valentine's night and watch whatever shows you want from anywhere around the world that you can access through that. And it is, of course, as I always say, the fastest VPN in the world, NordVPN. It means there's no buffering, no lagging, and you can stream your favorite shows from anywhere in the world without your bandwidth throttling. You can use NordVPN to help you book tickets, whether that's through concerts, through airplane tickets, through hotel bookings, anything. Just it might be easier for you to switch your device to thinking it's in a completely different location because you might get a better deal out of it. And talking of better deals, to get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/gold guest. Our link also gives you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee, and the link, in case you just missed it, is in the podcast episode description box. Back to you, you old romantic.
Yeah, for anyone who does buy NordVPN as a Valentine's Day gift, do let us know how it goes on. But, I mean, we can read some of the best ones out next week on the pod.
That would be an incredible Valentine's gift. So, yes, please let us know if you did and how that went down.
Right, going back to the Manchester United game, who plays then?
Oof. Much depends on who's in any position to kind of come back. And this is, I do think there's a lot of excitement over who might come back, but also probably needs to be tinged with caution over it could end up just being one or two of them maybe on the bench at the best. We've got to see, really. I mean, Postecoglou after the game was talking about the fact that giving them all or giving a few of them a full week of training was going to be massive, rather than recently when they've come back from injuries, kind of had to shove them straight back in or on the bench. I personally would imagine the team will stay pretty similar, but obviously you've got a bit of rest. You've got a full week to work. It's a different feeling team in a way, because it's not rocket science. The Postecoglou system needs pressing, it needs energy, and recently there's been none of that. I would hope, and this is no slight on Kinski, who I think has done very well overall, but I'd love to see Vicario back in there with his leadership, which would be way ahead of schedule because he was meant to be end of Feb originally. I remember Postecoglou telling us. So getting him back in there, I think, would give a lift to the defence. It's a very harsh one on Archie Gray, but I would probably say Davies and Danso together for the kind of the experience there. Spence keeping on going at left back because he's pretty much an undroppable right now, and I hope he remains that way as well. Midfield is an interesting one. What would you do with the midfield? I would love to see Archie Gray in there, but I don't know if he will.
I don't think we'll see Archie Gray midfield. I think there's probably been opportunities for him to go and start midfield, and Postecoglou's elected against that. The thing is with the midfield at the moment, you've had all these issues in defence and in attack, and you pretty much had every midfielder available, bar Maddison. But still, it just seems like it is Tottenham's weakest position at the moment. Because look how bad they were against Liverpool. They were just running through them time and time again. Same against Villa in the first half before Bissouma came on. I don't think Ange knows his best midfield. And to be honest, I couldn't tell you what the best midfield is.
No, and they look out of form. The ones that are playing look really out of form.
I mean, Bentancur's done really well. I think Bergvall has, but as a combination, is the best trio, maybe Bissouma, Sarr and Maddison, just going on the success of the start of last campaign.
Maybe, but I've also seen that midfield look dreadful on occasions as well. Yeah, I mean, it depends if Maddison's available. That's the other issue, whether you can bring him back in yet.
Yeah, I think they're better with Decky in midfield because I think they've lacked some creativity at times, but he's just picking the right combination. I genuinely don't know. Going on what happened in the first half at Villa, I'd probably say you need to get Bissouma back in the team at the base. But then look at Liverpool. So I don't know
what I'd really like to see, and we kind of saw it briefly at Anfield, but I'd like to switch it around. I'd like to see Decky in midfield, and again, this is very much needing Destiny Udogie to be fit, so it might not be something that can work on Sunday. But I think I'm kind of coming around to the idea. I'd quite like to see Jed Spence as the right back and Porro playing further up as a right winger. Because he's used to be kind of being a wing back, isn't he? But I mean, either could play it, but I just kind of feel like maybe Spence is better defensively than Porro, and in terms of the height as well. So maybe I'd just that would allow you to put Kulusevski into that deeper kind of midfield role. Where I agree, I think the times the midfields look best, he's been in it, and I can understand Bissouma and Bentancur at times going together, the experience, but actually hasn't really always worked. Even Bentancur, he's kind of had a couple of good games and some points in games he's really been off it as well. To be fair, most of the team has. And then you've got Bergvall. Bergvall, when fully fit and not knackered, has been really impressive. But then he's also been kind of running to the ground as an 18-year-old as well. So, yeah, that's a really tough. I'm trying to think in my head, really, what I go with. I don't think, unfortunately, Kulusevski is going to be able to come into midfield at the moment, just because I don't think they've got the bodies in attack, or maybe at left back to do that whole Jed Spence Porro thing. So probably that would be maybe Bergvall. I think it would end up being Bergvall, Bissouma and Bentancur. I wonder if that's it. But he likes Sarr, and Sarr's done very well against Man U in the past as well. So yeah, maybe let's take that back. Maybe Sarr plays. So is Sarr, Bergvall and Bentancur, is that too lightweight? Does it? I think it needs Bissouma in there. That's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I suppose the good thing is this week everyone's had a week off. You're not going into a game after a few days. Everyone should be nice and refreshed. But yeah, it's a real headache, I think, in midfield when it really shouldn't be.
Let us know in the comments, people, what you'd like to see there as well if you're watching this on YouTube.
I think what you mentioned in defence, maybe giving Archie Gray rest. I think the opportunity was probably there to rest him against Villa, and I thought Ange might have done, but he didn't. I don't know whether Archie just becomes a permanent fixture in this
Was
Tottenham
he
team
resting
now.
Davies though? Maybe it's because Davies has had to come back and play a lot of games
Maybe.
in quick succession. Yeah, actually, after talking about Archie Graham being in midfield, I've kind of completely forgot him there when I was talking about the options. I would play him there. I think he would give you a more kind of solid base to it and the engine as well. But like you, I just feel like he maybe, it sounds ridiculous to say, but maybe he doesn't trust him in that position yet, which is a bit daft when everything he's done for you as a defender and seeing how much you've been able to trust him then. I mean, even against Villa, he made this brilliant last-ditch tackle on Rashford and got a
Yeah.
massive boot in the leg, which looked horrible. Um, yeah, I think he's earned the right to play in the position that he should play, but whether he does or not, we'll see.
Yeah, attack's going to be a bit of an interesting one as well. Might be a bit of a straightforward one for Ange as well, just because of the options. But going on last Sunday, Son shouldn't be in the team for me. And I thought
But
he'd
who do you
probably.
put in?
I know this is the thing now. I think you've got to play Son because of the options, and I think Sunday also showed that Micky Moore might be better as an impact player off the bench. But I also think he'd probably be better playing in his natural role on the left rather than the right. And I thought Tell might have been given the nod through the middle with Son on the left. And if that was the case, Tell might have taken that chance Son missed in the first half.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But I imagine it'll be Decky in the front three with Tell and Son.
You would
Sunday.
think so. Yeah, I kind of echo a lot of that, really. I feel like Micky is such a incredible young talent, but I just have, it's been a few times now. I've kind of seen it. I get Palace away, Brentford as well, and then at the weekend, I just feel like physically he's not there yet. He is 17, and that's absolutely understandable. But yet you've seen kind of moments of quality that are clearly there. You know, setting up that big chance for Son as well, and I just feel like with Micky, it's just unfortunate that in any other position in terms of the team and the availability, you'd be able to bring him on late in matches. And of course, he missed that really kind of crucial period, I think, for him when he was out, and that would have been really helpful for him as well. And yeah, I can understand the reluctance to kind of throw him in right now as a starter. Also, because I think what it does to the right back, you know, Porro. I mean, I know we're veering into the Villa game here, but Porro against Brentford did really well in understanding that he had a 17-year-old ahead of him who probably wasn't going to have the physicality and energy to track back and defend. So what he did was actually more restrained. He stayed back. He stuck where he was. Against Villa, it was like someone had flipped the switch. He did completely opposite and kept leaving himself exposed up the pitch with Micky Moore. So yeah, I do think that has a knock-on impact for the fullback, and like you say, I would also like to see him on the left at some point. Yeah, I don't think elsewhere you can really do much else. Tell for me looked much better when he switched into the centre than he did on the wing. I thought he looked actually quite lost at times on the wing. It just couldn't get into the game. His link up with Spence wasn't particularly great for long periods either. Whereas as soon as he moved infield, he just looked a bit more of a threat, and obviously got a lovely goal as well. So, yeah, I would like to see it as Sonny on the left, Tell through the middle, and Decky on the right. But yes, we need kind of more options. You know, it'd be great if you could start getting the likes of Odebear and Johnson involved again. I mean, Odebear, we barely got to see what he can do for Spurs, and of course. Timo, don't forget about Timo. Timo Werner's still there, not in Europa League, but he is still there. We haven't done a pod since the Europa League squad has been announced either, have we?
No, we've not. So Timo was one of the three out of it with Radu Dragusin and Fraser Forster, Jed Spence, Matisse Tell, and Kevin Danza in. So yeah, three changes were permitted, and that's exactly what Ange's done after reading your piece, I believe.
Yes, we had that funny little bit in the press conference. And yeah, the irony was that was the three suggestions that I made. And I absolutely had no impact or effect whatsoever. He probably didn't. And to be fair, even when he said that, you know, I'm waiting for your piece, it was already out there. So he was never going to read my piece or whatever. But yeah, I think it's the decisions we probably all would have made, quite frankly, with that squad.
Yeah, just on the subject of Ange, I mean, this week is huge for him.
Yeah.
This game, because I mean, Spurs 14th in the Premier League table, one place behind Manchester United, 2 points behind them. It's very much a must-win game after those abject performances in the cup games, and I do worry quite a bit for him if Spurs are to lose. There's all the protests going on ahead of the game, after the game as well, and especially if you've got injured players back, you just kind of worry. Could there be a decision maybe if they are to lose?
Yeah, it's one of those where he's been talking about getting these players back, and it's quite, it's understood within the club. They do understand that, yeah, it's been absolutely rubbish for him, and kind of the amount of injuries that they've had, and so many kind of collision injuries as well. Yeah, of course, there's muscle ones in there as well, but there's been a high freak. I'd love someone to do like a proper deep dive on it across the Premier League on how many muscle injuries there's been this season, because there must have been more than previous seasons. But yeah, I think there is an understanding within the club of what he's had to deal with, but that understanding only lasts as long, I guess, as those players remain out and as they start filtering back, and you getting a week between games. Yeah, I think these kind of 2 games ahead with a full week in between, he has to be able to show, and his team have to show, oh, okay, that's what Postecoglou Spurs was like. Oh yeah, okay, great. Whereas if it's more of the same and they struggle and they concede sloppy kind of goals at home, especially against United, and United not in a good way either. Ipswich, the one after as well, they're a team down there. I know they've caused teams problems, not least Spurs, but these are 2 games at home against United and the way they are right now, and Ipswich being a team that are just trying to fight for their lives. You should be coming away with 3 points from both, really. So yeah, I do feel like the pressure really kind of ramps up on him as players come back. Like we said, it could well be that there's no changes to the team. It could be that there's 1, maybe 2 players on the bench if he's lucky. But it's still, I think it's just the aesthetics of it all, and the fact that, like you say as well, the protests, because we know what's happened in the past. When the heat has been turned on Daniel Levy, it's normally the guy in the dugout is the one that gets the kind of the boot. And it was fun enough, wasn't it? Nuno, it was the Spurs Man United game that decided his fate, wasn't it? El Sacchio, they called it back then. Yeah, and it just kind of didn't. Yeah, it was at the end. I mean, I'm sure he's weeping away to himself right now, sitting right up there in the Premier League with Nottingham Forest. But still, it's a huge game on Sunday, and that is why I think I'm so keen that for the protest and the support within the game to be 2 very different things, because they are going to need a 12th man as well on Sunday.
Yeah, some other things regarding Tottenham this week. There's been takeover reports once again, and then King Charles visiting Tottenham Hotspur Stadium yesterday. I know you were reporting on that and why he was there.
I feel like you've linked the 2, as if King Charlie came in, put in a bid, and said, take it or leave it. Where do we start? Start with takeover stuff, because we were just talking about the protest stuff. Yeah, there was another report I saw came out, I think maybe in The Guardian, I think it was. This is no disrespect to The Guardian, it was a very, very good article, but it kind of felt like one of those reports that we seem to get every 3 to 6 months of someone else out there is interested in Spurs, because there was no, kind of talking. I think it said something about the club had said that they're involved in no active discussions. I think it said at the end of the piece or something. Yeah, it feels like every 3 to 6 months or so, we get one of these reports that someone, whether it be an individual, a consortium, someone involved, like a state kind of government type thing, they're interested in Tottenham, and then there's always this little thing of, and they want Daniel Levy to continue. And I mean, it's like, I'm sure that would absolutely go down very well with the fan base right now. But I guess if you're looking at it from a business perspective, Spurs make money. Levy makes money for Spurs. he makes money, I guess, for whoever is invested, who owns Tottenham. And if that is someone else coming in, they probably look at it and go, well, you'd be mad not to kind of have him continue to do that, because in terms of revenue, you know, they, for the first time, they've topped 500 million, didn't they, in the last financial accounts in revenue. And they've kind of have created something that at some point, please, will be able to kind of rival and fight against these kind of state-owned teams. And I mean, yeah, I kind of get that. I mean, of course, there's everything else to it, and that's the stuff that the fans are annoyed at. I mean, you know, Levy no doubt would point to, isn't there something like I've spent about I think something like I've spent 500 million on players or something since the stadium opened. I'm pretty sure that's been put out there. But on the flip side of that is, yeah, who have you bought with that? That's the issue, isn't it? It's like, it's great to say that, but how many of those have been kind of young investments for the future that you know you'll get a bigger value for? You know, that's when it becomes more an investment than a transfer to help the team for now. And yeah, there's been the odd one, like Solanke was, you know, the most expensive transfer of last summer. And was a great player for the now. It would be lovely if Spurs did have him right now. But yeah, I just think there's so many other aspects to it that something like that would probably not go down very well with the fan base, because they would see it as just a continuation, regardless of who was putting the money in. I mean, it's a difficult one. I mean, it's a question for you. I'll put it out there. It's a bit of a kind of unfair, because it's almost an unanswerable question. It's very hypothetical. But would you imagine Daniel Levy would be different as a chairman with someone else's money, being the kind of as an employee rather than someone with a vested interest money wise, and it was like there was more money being pumped in?
Maybe. I mean, we'd only find out if there was ever that situation and it ever occurred, but I don't know.
You're a rich man. Would you keep him in charge if you launched a takeover?
Well, like you said, he's made the club loads of money. Look at, I know not everything's great and rosy on the pitch at the moment, but off the pitch, Spurs are such an attractive proposition, aren't they? With the stadium, the training ground, everything. So you can understand why people would want to, you know, look at buying the club, and look, like you said, Levy making money for the club. So,
but it's
yeah,
the valuation, isn't it? The valuation is reportedly around 3.75 billion. And is it that attractive when it's that expensive? I know you could afford that, but there's a lot of people that can't.
Well, I mean, everything's in place. It just needs taking to the next level. And that comes on the pitch. And I think Spurs are going to have to spend quite a lot of money if they want to get to the levels where, like, Liverpool are at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it just feels like, with no disrespect to the report, because it was a very good and thorough report and everything, but it just feels like something we've seen before. And we know Spurs are looking for investment and things like that. But yeah, it just felt like something we've seen a number of times. And who knows? This could be the one time it does start to lead to something. But yeah, I just feel we've seen that a lot of times. Yes, your second question, you kind of chuck them together. King Charles III came to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium yesterday morning, Wednesday morning. I think there was originally a suggestion he was maybe coming Friday. I saw some of the local kind of reports around that area were reporting Friday, but whether that's to throw people off the scent, I don't know. But he turned up on the Wednesday, was met inside that same West Stand entrance where the protest will kind of reach. He was met by Daniel Levy, and yeah, went inside, met Sonny, met Beth England, the two captains, and then various kind of NFL people, pundits. F.A. Abada is the longest serving current British NFL player, plays for the Washington Commanders. And yeah, the idea of it all really was the other side of Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, that, you know, the NFL side to it and the charity links and everything that's been done through that, and the people affected. They had 2,000 fans or people that have been affected in some way by the charity work as well, because there's the sixth form as well. That's all part of it as well. That's the very high performing. The name's going out of my head. The abbreviations, I think it's LAET or something like that. London Academy. Oh, I'm not going to guess because I'll make a complete mess of it. But yeah, the sixth form, which is is a sixth form that's doing great stuff. It's kind of essentially maybe bringing in youngsters that maybe might not have had the opportunity to study a kind of an academy of excellence like that, and giving them the chance to do that. And the numbers speak for themselves. So he was there to recognise all of that. 2,000 fans kind of waving kind of flags and stuff as he came out. And for Daniel Levy, it must have been weird, because it was probably be like quite a proud moment, kind of walking and showing the king around the stadium. Like I say, the house that he built in a way. Yeah, he knows that in a couple of days' time there's going to be a very different reaction in there. But yeah, still very cool to see royalty there, and people lined up outside the stadium to greet him as well. Not something you see every day. Not the kind of king that Spurs have been used to seeing on the pitch at Tottenham.
No, certainly not. A couple of other things regarding Tottenham this week. Alfie Devine, who's on loan at Westerlo in Belgium, he's picked up an injury. It must just be anyone connected with Spurs who sustains these injuries. It's a hamstring issue. I think you reported 4 to 6 weeks he's out for, so you're probably looking at early April now for a return date for him, which is a chunk of the season. I think it's been a good loan spell for him out in Belgium. I think there's another player getting the headlines there, and that's Luka Vuskovic, who'll be at Spurs in the summer. But I think that's what Alfie's needed, just another year out on loan. I think he's someone Ange really loves. Made an impact in pre-season when he's played, and they'll be looking to do that in the summer. And then someone else who will be looking to do likewise, Jamie Donnelly, who had a big part to play in Leyton Orient's goal against Man City in the FA Cup last week. Unfortunately, it goes down as a Stefan Ortega own goal, but the vision from Donnelly, we've seen him do that before for Spurs as youngsters. I think it was against Liverpool last season at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, scoring from very close to the halfway line. Again, did likewise, and it's been such a productive loan spell for him. Didn't really go to plan in the first couple of months for him when he was out of the squad altogether, but since he's come back in, he's just been a revelation, really, and he's just played this key role in Orient, challenging for the playoffs, and fingers crossed he'll be able to play a part in their promotion come May.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one for us. I'm sure we'll write an article about this when it all finishes. This could be, in terms of loans, one of the most successful seasons for the loan players that I can remember. And that is just purely in the amount of players that have got so many minutes, so much development, big moments as well. I mean, Manor Solomon's just like flying at Leeds. Josh Keeley's just been amazing at Orient. I mean, I think he got another clean sheet in the week. I saw some stat that I think he's either second or third across all English divisions for clean sheets or something, and the ratio to games. It's just like, it's remarkable. George Abbott, of course. I know you were writing a piece on him at some point as well. There's so many that have just had a terrific season. Even ones that maybe aren't like big kind of highlight things, like Brian Hill has gone back to Spain and playing a lot of football for Girona. Alejo Valise, it's not been an incredible loan, but he's gone and got minutes there as well. Where is he? Espanyol.
Yeah.
Yes.
He is.
Yes. And I should know. I did a loan roundup 2 days ago. It should all be fresh in my mind. But just loads of them, even like goalkeepers heading out on loan to non-league clubs, and Luca Gunter's at Wealdstone at the moment. But there's been a string of other younger goalkeepers that have headed out as well. Ashley Phillips getting loads of game time. It's the irony is, it's probably had the best loan season for all these players in the season when Spurs needed them back at Tottenham. It's typical. But yeah, in terms of those, Alfie Devine, really unfortunate for him. He's really got this lovely run of games this season, pretty much apart from the first game where he just arrived and came off the bench at half time. I think he started almost every game in the league for them, and played almost every minute of those games as well, and scored some big goals for them too. So he was flying, and then it was only 24 minutes into the game at the weekend against Liège. He went down holding his left hamstring, and 4 to 6 weeks. And honestly, the amount of replies, sarcastic replies I got when I put out that news, like, Andrew's fault, Andrew's training sessions, Andrew's this and that. It's like, yes, I get it. Yes, it is the curse of Tottenham, not Andrew's fault. I told you, didn't I? I said I wondered if someone would try and actually seriously blame the pre-season and said it had affected him now in February. So yeah, really unfortunate for Alfie, but yeah, Jamie. I mean, that was brilliant. That moment, Guardiola praised him afterwards, didn't he? There's a lovely clip doing the rounds I saw today of the academy boys at Spurs all watching it in their gym and just going mad when he scores, and then all realizing, oh no, he's not actually going to get the goal because it technically hit the bar and then went in off Ortega. Fantastic. Actually, I think Josh Keeley got praise as well from Guardiola after the game and said how good he was. I think even Jamie Donnelly himself said he should have probably got man of the match on the day, and got all the plaudits. But yeah, obviously they went out Orient, but it was tight. Well, it was 2-1 in the end. It really. They've had some lovely kind of showcase big moments, the two of them, Donnelly and Keeley. I mean, Keeley obviously scored in that competition as a goalkeeper, so he did loads of media at the weekend. I saw that. There's loads of interviews, like a Shay Given interview, I think it was on the BBC. And it's lovely that they're all getting out. And again, as an extension, it's lovely for the academy to kind of see these players that they've worked with and coached and everyone else involved in the development going out there and making names for themselves. And it's going to be a fair few decisions next summer in pre-season because, you know, whether some of these players go out again. Josh Keeley, I think, will be a difficult one for him because of his non-homegrown status. I think it's going to be very difficult, unfortunately, for him to break through at Spurs, which is a massive shame because he's going to be a terrific goalkeeper. I wouldn't be surprised if they give him another contract and send him on like a bigger loan next season to maybe a championship club, and then just see where the land lies at Spurs. Because either way, he might be able to then come back and be a part of things, or they get a big fee for him or something. But either way, I think he's going to have a great career. And yeah, with someone like Jamie Donnelly, he's just developed just exponentially this season. It's been brilliant. Does he then go to a championship club next season, or do they look at him and think, do you know what? It's probably time for you with that vision to have a go in the team. Maybe the one thing about Jamie that's been said is maybe he just doesn't have that extra like touch of pace. But you know, there's plenty of players out there that aren't the quickest, but still have like that speed in their mind, and maybe he's going to be one of those.
Yeah, I agree with you there. As long as you're, quick in the mind, that's it. That's key. Not everyone's like that. So I think with Jamie, I'd be definitely keeping him around, having a really good look at him in pre-season, then go from there. And if he's not to be, a part of the plans for next season, step up to the championship, and then go from there. But the way he's going at the moment, I think plenty of Tottenham fans are going to be calling for him to be involved next season, and that's a great thing. That's what you want to see from your academy lads coming in and making that impact in the first team. And fingers crossed he does go on to do that in the future. Right then, final bit of the show, and unfortunately, I think we're going to have to reflect on the Liverpool and Villa games. We'll try keep it brief. Spurs out of two cup competitions now, exiting the Carabao Cup following a 4-1 defeat against Liverpool, 4-0 on the night at Anfield, and then 2-1 defeat in the FA Cup against Villa. I mean, both huge missed opportunities, but when you look at the FA Cup draw, the teams who've gone out of it, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, United are still in it, and they're not very good. City is struggling this season. It's there to be won for someone like Villa, Brighton, Forest. They could win it.
Yeah. But someone not like Tottenham, unfortunately. There we go. It's time to go, everyone. It's such a shame. It's got a very enjoyable podcast so far to record, and I don't want to do this bit. I mean, Anfield was just, the irony was it was so un-Postecoglou like the team looked like it had gone there to try to get away with the draw on the night or something and escape with that, and they kind of just about limped through about half an hour, didn't they? And it all just started to creak and the mistakes came in and they were just so poor going forward. That's probably, we've spoken about kind of tiredness before, but that was probably the most I've seen that in a performance. They just didn't even look capable of getting over the halfway line. I mean, look, credit to Liverpool as well, who absolutely kind of dominated the game, but yeah, it was poor. It was poor. There were too many individual mistakes as well. I'm sure Postecoglou would say that that's because they're like mentally tired as well as physically tired. But that was horrible, and that was the one where I had to stay over, get 3.5 hours sleep, get a train back the next morning to get to the press conference. Because someone else wasn't available to go to it, but that's a whole other thing. That's fine. Yeah, and it just wasn't worth it though. It wasn't worth all of that hassle for a night that, yeah, Spurs were just poor, and they, after all the praise about set pieces, conceded a set piece goal late on as well to Van Dijk. So that was one game. Villa one was slightly different. Villa, they kind of, there was definitely going to be an overhang from the Anfield match and what they tried to put into that and the disappointment of it all. But to shoot themselves in the foot 57 seconds in with, as we said earlier, Porro allowing far too much space in behind him, and then Kinski just, to be fair, yeah, there's been moments where he hasn't absolutely kind of been as sharp as he could, and maybe that is because of not playing too much football before this. But that was the biggest gaffe he's made so far. That was just, it was really poor goalkeeping, really. And that just put him on the back foot from that point on. For that whole first half, he looked nervous. The team looked nervous. Still had a big chance through Sonny. They probably should have got themselves back in the game with. And actually, if I've got to give credit to Kinski as well, I did feel like after that 10, 15-minute spell after that, he really showed a lot of character. I thought he came back into the game. He had one flying save about 10 minutes after, which I think started to settle him. And he did, to be fair, keep the scoreline anywhere near a contest. But yeah, they just didn't do enough. Basuma helped them get control of the second half a little bit more, but yeah, they just didn't quite do enough on the night. And second goal was again kind of, Porro making a complete mess of trying to clear a ball across the 6-yard box, just presents it straight to Rodgers to smash into the net. And yeah, there was a little moment where Villa Park got a little bit worried in added time when Tell gets a really nice touch to Kulusevski's in-swinging cross, but it never really felt like they were probably going to rescue at that point. So just a really damaging 3-4 days or so. Two cup competitions, and they're out in them both now. And now it's all about the Europa League and also climbing the table in the Premier League as well. It's one of those where absolutely 100% agree with you. The FA Cup opened up for them. Would have been a great competition to still be in. Carabao Cup, it's there. They'd won that. They were in the final. That was it. So I'm not going to be one of those people that says, at least you can look at the fact that they've got these 3 weeks now. It's like, no, just no. No, they were competitions that they really could have gone on and done something special in. So yes, they will take the byproduct of having more time now for players to rest and recuperate and that sort of stuff. But you would never swap that in a million years for what they could have done in those trophies.
Yeah, you just look at them and think maybe if the both cup fixtures were 2 weeks down the line where Spurs have a few more players back, then might have been tighter contests. They were so poor at Anfield, but I think really got to give credit to Liverpool, who I thought were fantastic on the night. And
you're giving credit to Liverpool. Wow.
Yeah, but they're probably best team in the world at the moment, maybe.
Well, we'll go for Europe. I don't know the world, but yeah, they could be in the world.
Yeah.
I don't watch enough kind of South American football to probably know.
Yeah, but the Villa game, again, like you said, just shot themselves in the foot straight away. Gives yourself a big mountain to climb against a good Aston Villa team. But I just feel if Sonny maybe took that chance, things could have panned out a lot differently. And I thought Spurs were good first 15, 20 minutes of the second half, creating stuff. But by the time Tell scored, too little, too late. And it's just so disappointing to crash out of 2 cup competitions. Europa League or bust now for Ange, he said, didn't he? In September, he always wins something in his second season. And we'll find out next Friday who Spurs play in the Europa League. It's one of 4 teams. There's Galatasaray, AZ Alkmaar, Real Sociedad, and Danish team.
Come on, I want you to pronounce it.
My Thailand, or someone like that.
My Thailand. Please, someone in the comments, let us know how you pronounce that. I didn't even attempt it. At least you were brave enough to try it. Just a quick question: what did you make of Postecoglou's press conference after?
Very, very honest. Got the backs of the players. Yeah, definitely frustrated, wasn't he, at the end
Yeah.
with a couple of those questions, which probably understandable, but he said it how it is, hasn't he, really, that basically these same players have been playing every 3 or 4 days for the past 2.5 months. And
Yeah.
they have absolutely knackered.
Yeah, like Havertz has now gone for Arsenal, and I've seen in recent days the injury crisis that Arsenal now have to deal with, and like so few attacking options, and you kind of think, "Hello, where was all this about Spurs?" I know. Look, I'm not stupid. I know Arsenal are up there in the title race, and it's bigger news because of that. But yeah, it's I do feel like it has been glossed over as an excuse rather than facts with Spurs.
Yeah, I think the Arsenal one will be the biggest injury crisis ever, won't it? Now with
Yes.
Havertz joining the list. But yeah, all comes down to Sunday for Spurs against Manchester United at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We'll be back on Monday to reflect on that game and also look ahead to the Ipswich game. Hopefully, a positive podcast, not like the end of this one, when discussing the Liverpool and Villa games. But as ever, thank you for listening in, and just keep with us at football.london for all your latest Tottenham news. To get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/gold guest. Our link will also give you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money back guarantee. The link is in the podcast episode description box.